I know I've been talking a lot about AI coded directories, but WordPress is still one of the kings of CMSs, and it's still responsible for some of the largest, most successful directories in the world. So I'm going to show you 3 different directories, our first 9-figure directory that are all built on WordPress. And usually with these videos where I cover profitable directories, I break down the SEO and I talk about ideas that can stem from these successful directories. But because these are so successful, in some cases so dominant in a certain niche, instead, I just wanted to cherry pick some of the most notable golden nuggets that I've taken away from just observing and researching these directories, things that people like you and me can take and implement in our own directories. These things range from how they're monetizing their directory, whether it's lead generation or some kind of subscription-based offer that I think is really smart, or these are things like their blogs or how they structured their pages, so it's acting as a top of the funnel to their directory or their main offering, which is making them money. The truth is, these are dominant players in the niche that they're playing in, so I never look at these million-dollar directories and ask myself, should I compete in this niche? Instead, I look at the details and observe how well thought out their monetization plan is, and I also look at the keyword data, of course, because clearly they're ranking for keywords that have a search intent that aligns with their monetization offer, and that's something that I look at. So with that, let's dive into 3 profitable directories that are all built on WordPress and are also making millions of dollars in revenue a year. So the first directory on the list is going to be otpotential.com, and I'm not going to go through the typical audit that I usually do. I just want to point out the most notable things about this directory. Before we take a look at the website, I just wanted to show you that this website is getting an estimated 27,000 monthly visitors, and we'll be taking a look at this in a moment. Also, I tried to find out how much this website is making in terms of yearly revenue, and I only found rocketreach.co, which estimates that this website brings in around $6 million a year. I think it's definitely doing over $1 million a year, and we'll be looking at some numbers as to why I think that. But I wanted to start off with this number because it helps to see through the lens of what is a 7-figure directory. So obviously this is a directory in the occupational therapy space, but the gist is that it solves 2 problems. One, it helps occupational therapists with continued education, and the second thing is that it helps people find occupational therapists. If you are looking for one, you can browse their directory, and some people, as we can see here, are accepting clients, and you can kind of learn more about these individuals. Their graph on Ahrefs just shows growth ever since 2015, when they only had 127 monthly visitors, to now where they kind of have grown to around almost 30,000 monthly visitors. So I don't think we need to go through the on-page stuff. One of the most notable things about this directory is actually their offer and how they packaged it up. And on the homepage, we can see that they have 28,000 subscribers. And if we go to their pricing, we can see that they charge $49 a month. And what's unique about this is that they packed so much value into their subscriptions that we can see everything that is offered. We have courses, webinars, certificates, some AI features, and then at the very bottom, it says a listing on the OT directory. And it seems like that's not the main value, although people probably do want to be on the directory to get some clients. But they've centered their offer around all of these other things that make it pretty interesting. So while OT Potential is a directory, they have so many online educational resources that they're more of a educational subscription-based community, I would say, with a directory layered on top, which I think is smart because you might have the directory attract a lot of occupational therapists, and then they see that, hey, I can do my continued education here, and that directory works as top of the funnel for your core offering or the thing that makes you more money, which is the education side. I also think they did a great job anchoring the pricing. It's $49 a month, but then it's $99 for a year. So this is the clear choice if you are an occupational therapist looking to take advantage of these resources. So based on the homepage that says that there are 28,000 subscribers, if we did 28,000 times $49, then that would be about $1.37 million a month in revenue that they earn. Obviously, it's not going to be that high because people probably opt for the annual plan, which means it's a lot lower per month. But this is how we can probably ballpark it to a 7-figure directory. That's a lot of members, and that's really solid for them. Now, OT Potential isn't the only website directory that's done something where it's a directory with online education. It kind of reminds me of Seek Experts, which is the directory that we covered in a previous video. They're an expert witness directory, but they also make a lot of money just through their courses. And you can click on one of these and see how much they cost. This one costs $1,400, and apparently they do pretty well. So it's not the only directory I've seen that has done a monetization offer like this. I don't think these educational resources and courses make sense for a lot of the directory niches that you and me are building in, but when you layer on extra value, it becomes so much more of a high monetization potential play. I won't dive into the courses too deep, but they really found a way to cover a bunch of different continued educational niches: mental health, early intervention, pediatrics. If we click into this, they have all of these courses, and it's really impressive. I wonder if there's an incentive for these people to create these courses, or if they hire them and then just pay them money up front to do these courses. I'm not sure, but they clearly have a really good system going on. So this is their actual directory, and it's a worldwide directory, which we can see here, for anyone looking for occupational therapists. And what's interesting is that there's only 656 total occupational therapists on this directory. And I think this number points to people getting more value from those educational resources, because out of 28,000 people who have signed up and paid for OT Potential, only 656 seems kind of low. I don't think they're really monetizing this directory to its full potential. It seems like more of a cherry on top based on the way that they included it in their pricing, but it is still pretty clean. So let's take a look at the data, and I want to know what kind of keywords they're targeting, how big this directory is, what the top traffic pages are. And if we take a quick look, we can immediately see that they do have some really strong backlinks. I mean, this is very relevant to occupational therapy. It has real traffic. It's a high DR. The root domain for usa.edu is getting hundreds of thousands of monthly visitors. Yeah, this is looking good. But let me take a look at the keywords first, because that's always something I'm most interested in. So they're ranking for occupational therapy near me, which is great. They're position 3, and the page that's ranking for this keyword is their directory, specifically for Nebraska, which is interesting, and I might take a deeper look because I didn't notice that they had a specific Nebraska URL slug. So I wonder if they did this for every state in America. It's interesting because a lot of these keywords look like keywords that a directory would rank for, but if we look at the page that's actually ranking for hand therapy near me, for example, it's a blog, and we have this little blog area here. When we scroll down, then we see the directory. But this isn't the reason they're ranking for the keyword, it's this and the content that's below. So that's a really interesting combo. I've felt like this is a good strategy for some time, where you have a blog work as top of the funnel for your directory, but I've never actually seen it in practice too often. And as I expected, they're also ranking for keywords like how to become an occupational therapist, which makes sense because their monetization offer is around education and continued education. So this is kind of like the second half of their pie. But yeah, there's a good combination of both local keywords as well as those informational keywords. My big takeaway when I look at this and look at the types of pages that are ranking for these keywords is that blogs have a serious utility. And I've said this a bunch of times, but I think after the core update in 2023, this idea of a blog has kind of died in terms of what actually can help you rank on Google, what can get you traffic, and we're seeing that not be the case. I mean, clearly it's still working out pretty well for a lot of websites, including this one, and I'd be willing to bet that these blogs are responsible for all of these AI citations right over here. So I think this is another reason to not sleep on blogs, basically. Now, speaking of blogs, we can see from their top pages that this is not a big directory. There's 316 pages that are indexed, and their most traffic pages are all blogs, getting thousands of monthly visitors. We do see, if we do Control F and type in directory, the 6th most traffic page is the directory for Nebraska. And if we scroll down, we have another directory page here that gets 700 monthly visitors. And scrolling down on this page, we can see that clearly the directory is not responsible for bringing in the majority of the traffic. It's mostly the blogs here. And it does look like they have state location pages for their directory. This Texas page gets 91 monthly visitors, and it does kind of have its own dedicated URL slug. If you happen to be building a directory in this space or adjacent to this niche, you definitely want to include a city-specific location page in addition to your state-specific location pages. And just to prove that to you, if we go over to the Keyword Explorer and type in occupational therapist, head to matching terms. So once we go to local and hit apply, take a look at this left side panel, and we should see some city-specific queries that show up for occupational therapists. We have occupational therapist, New York City. This isn't that much traffic, but if you do create city-specific location pages nationwide, this can add up pretty quick and result in more traffic. So that's definitely something that I would recommend. I don't think they have them just because they only have 316 pages, and I feel like there would be a lot more pages if they had individual city pages in addition to the state pages. Just an observation. Now, real quick, I do want to show you that I looked this directory up in Built With, and we do see all of their widgets, all the tech stack and tools that they use. And if we scroll scroll all the way down to content management system, we do see that they built this website with WordPress. They have a bunch of other things too. I'm not going to go through all of the tools that they have. Clearly, they had to have something for the courses, and I see Memberful, which is probably used to manage their subscriptions and their members, but just to show you that this was built on WordPress. Now, would I compete in this niche directly and go head-to-head with otpotential.com? Probably not. They're pretty well established. They seem like they have a good course theme going on. So here's a full list of different professions that this kind of educational course/directory play could work with. I'm sure some of these niches have very strong competitors like OT Potential, but in their own niche. So I would just check on that, but there's clearly a lot of different continued educational plays that could be had. Because even looking at OT Potential and their SEO, I think it's strong and I think it's kind of organically built over time in the last 10 years, but it's not S-tier level SEO execution. And I think that if you were a talented SEO and you wanted to build something sticky that didn't monetize with ads or featured listings, then this would be a really lucrative play. Now, while we're talking about WordPress directories that are really successful, I do want to mention that this video was made in partnership with Hostinger. So I'll be taking a couple minutes to talk about their managed WordPress hosting. So right now, Hostinger is running their Black Friday sale, so this is a really good time to lock in your hosting at a great price. I'll also be giving you a coupon code that you can use for 10% off in addition to what is already being discounted. So if we hit claim deal, we can see that they have a few different options here, and I always choose the business plan because it has a higher ceiling for monthly visitors. We can see some of the features that come with the business plan, but we can also hit view all features and get kind of a side-by-side comparison. So here we can see that the business plan does support up to 100,000 monthly visitors, and that's one of the main reasons that I use it. You're also going to get free unlimited SSL, pre-built templates, website migration, a free domain for a year, and a lot of other good stuff. So just to kind of quickly go over the motions, if I did choose the business plan here, then you'll end up on this page where you can specify the period. If you do choose 48 months, you do get a free domain and 3 extra months of hosting. But regardless of what plan you choose, just don't forget to go down to this coupon code area and type in FREYCHU, all caps, no spaces, hit apply, and that will get you an additional 10% off of your website hosting. So once you lock in your hosting, you'll end up on this dashboard right here. And if you do want to claim your free domain, all you have to do is head over to websites and then go to add a website, click on WordPress, and then it'll start to walk you through creating and installing WordPress. So here you have to quickly create some login details for your WordPress account. I'm just going to go ahead and click on next. From here, you can click on build a website with AI, click on pre-built templates, or just create a blank site, which is what I usually do. Let's just say that I was building a directory around tree houses, even though I wouldn't, but that's just an example. I would look for findatreehouse.com and just type it in here. So go ahead and click on next after this, and you're going to have to register your domain, and then you can hit finish registration. So this is going to finish everything that you need to lock in your domain and install WordPress. So 1 minute later, you're now ready to go and build. You have WordPress installed, your domain registered, and you're good to go. So with that, let's head back and check out some more directories. For the second directory, we're looking at martindale.com, and it's actually one of the biggest directories for lawyers that exist on the internet. Super big, very profitable, estimated to be around $35 million a year. Some other websites estimated to be close to $50 million a year. Either way, this is definitely over 8 figures for a directory, which is pretty insane. And I looked this website up on BuiltWith, and that's how I confirmed that they are using WordPress. If we go to content management systems, we do see WordPress right over here. Kind of like the last one, they do have a lot of tools that they use. It's not just as simple as plugging in WordPress. Now, just to show you some analytics before we kick off, we do see here in Ahrefs that this is getting 52,000 monthly visitors, tons of backlinks, and a high DR, 37,000 keywords that they're ranking for, and they've been around for quite a long time. Definitely well over 10 years. 10 years ago, they were already getting 60,000 monthly visitors. If you know anything about SEO, you know that this is one of the most competitive niches in the world. Anything that falls under lawyers, personal injury lawyers, anything adjacent to that, super lucrative, very difficult to rank and win from an SEO perspective. So for that reason, I'll be kind of pointing out what I think is the most valuable takeaway, because most of us are not going to be able to compete with a directory like this unless you found a very low competition, very long tail keyword that has something to do with lawyers. Then I wouldn't really recommend competing with these guys. But one thing that we can take a look at is just how they monetize. And their whole monetization strategy is centered around selling leads, which makes sense. These are very valuable leads. And in Martindale's case, they have an entire different domain, martindale-avo.com, which is dedicated to selling their leads. We can see here exclusive legal leads delivered directly to you. And if there's one thing that I would take away and observe this directory for so that I can improve my monetization across other directory niches that I'm building in, it's how they're actually taking leads in and selling those leads. And I think we can learn a lot from that. So let's just say that I was looking for a lawyer. I would go through the motions here, and I'm just going to go ahead and click on search. So the way their directory works is actually very simple. And I think what they've done on the back end of their directory is a lot more effective than what we see kind of right here, but it's just pretty standard. You can click on these different filters and filter by area of practice, and then basically find all of these Los Angeles attorneys, start to vet based on what you're looking for. And then if you want, you can contact them right down here. So from a directory side, this is nothing new. And I think the reason why this works is because Martindale.com is not a standalone directory for lawyers. The company that owns Martindale also apparently owns lawyers.com and avo.com. And to add on to this, if we go back to the actual lead generation website, they have these different options here that all start at $400 a month, it seems. If you do want to purchase this or be added to one of their directories here, you do have to talk to a marketing professional. You can see here, and this is probably their own dedicated sales team that does a great job at pitching you the product, the offers, how you're going to get business, and then close you. So that's pretty smart. If we take a look at what's offered, we see ProVantage, WebVantage, AdVantage. These are all different offerings that they've created to basically make running a law firm or legal business less of a headache. WebVantage is literally just helping you build a valuable lawyer-related website. So that's definitely a way that they make money there. AdVantage is their ad platform, and ProVantage is some kind of credibility offer with ratings and reviews. So not only do they help you get leads to their directories, which they've kind of cornered the market with 4 massive legal directories, but they also have their marketing and ad agency that I'm sure brings in a ton of revenue that handles all the stuff that you just don't want to worry about if you're a lawyer. I know a lot of us are building directories where we're trying to monetize through lead generation. And after talking to people like Tim Stoddart, it's very clear to me that if you are going to do lead generation, then there's a very viable play where you create a marketing agency or an SEO agency that is kind of layered into your lead gen play. And I think that makes sense because if you own directories that may bring in leads sometimes, right? Maybe it's not very consistent, then maybe you can offer a service that does give them more consistent leads by improving their SEO, selling them a local SEO package, running ads. Google ads are really big in the legal space. And I think this can be applied to so many other directory niches. I know a lot of us don't want to run marketing agencies, but I'm just saying this is a super lucrative combo that I see all the time. Again, Tim Stoddart is a great example of this with Sober Nation that he used to basically drive the leads in the rehab space, launched his local SEO agency, and then sold that for millions of dollars. Now, as far as the analytics, I'm not going to go do a deep dive here because they've been around forever. Clearly, backlinks are very important in this game and in this niche, but I do just want to point out some of the more notable things that I found. If we go over to the organic keywords, one thing that I noticed with this niche that I think could apply to a lot of other kind of high competition niches is that individuals get a ton of monthly searches. In this case, Paige Reef, which I assume is the name of a lawyer, gets searched 27,000 times a month. We also see a bunch of branded keywords, which are probably law firms. This one gets 11,000 monthly searches. Looking at this, it just kind of tells me that people are probably using Martindale and lawyers.com as, yes, potentially a way to discover new lawyers, but also to vet a lawyer that they may have heard of or seen on a billboard to see if they're legit. They want a source of truth, and that's where the directory plays its role. This is very similar to Kimmy Green's Sam's List, where she's creating the Yelp for financial advisors and financial professionals. A lot of people use Sam's List just to know if the accountant they're about to hire is legit or not. And they kind of trust Sam's List with their reviews. And that's kind of the play with this. It's very centered around the branded keywords, the individuals. And if we go to the top pages here, we can see that the second most visited page is a listing for an individual, Mr. George T. Sink, Sr. This guy is being seen 1,700 times every single month, so he must be a pretty popular choice for what he does. So just an insane directory. If you think about what they've built and how they've cornered the market, I think it's super smart. It's a very long-term play, obviously, to create or acquire multiple directories within a niche and then turn that into multiple kind of monetization angles. It makes sense that they're doing tens of millions of dollars a year. So the third and final website directory we're looking at today is aplaceformom.com. While I was digging into this directory, I was shocked to see just how large of a business this is. And some websites estimate that the yearly revenue is around $117 million. Grojo estimates that it could be $622 million per year in revenue, which is larger than care.com, which I thought was the largest kind of senior living directory. But either way, this is a massive business. They did secure a large amount of funding. I think they got like $175 million in funding a few years back. But apart from the money that they make, I think this is just a great example of what you can build with WordPress. This is easily one of the most aesthetic and clean, information-driven directories that I've ever seen. And I can show you how I looked this up on BuiltWith, aplaceformom.com. And if we go over to content management systems, they do use WordPress right over here. They also use Atlassian Cloud, Miro, and Unbounce, but these are not necessarily CMSs, and they also probably did a lot of custom coding. They have so many things here, but they also have your standard kind of WordPress plugins that we all recognize. Just wanted to show you that. Part of me is not really surprised. I've never heard of them because the senior living industry is massive. It's valued at over $94 billion annually, apparently, and it's going to 1.2 trillion by 2030. So yeah, they're a massive directory, but compared to the actual market size of the industry, it's still a fraction of what it is now and what it will be in 2030. So just like the last two, I just want to point out some of the more notable things about this directory that you can take with you with your own directory journey. And it has to do with their search function, which is a little bit different. So right now I'm in Long Beach, California. If I click search, then I end up on this page that says 10 best assisted living facilities in Long Beach, California. The first thing we see is this little quiz here. And if we just kind of start to take this quiz, I'm sure it's going to ask me for my email right over here. And that's a very clean way to structure your lead generation. It's literally the first thing that you see. So that's a really smart way to just kind of give value and also capture leads. But another thing is that the way that they structure this page is pretty interesting. 10 best assisted living facilities. Usually when you use a dynamic search bar, you end up with a long list of directory listings like this, but they decided to name this the 10 best. I think this is a small but notable change. I just think from a user perspective, it's pretty smart, a little bit manipulative, if you will, but it gives this idea that you've vetted all of these and deemed them the best, and that's why you're showing them. In reality, it's not so different than a regular directory, because if you scroll down, you can see all the listings here. They have a very clean URL slug for this as well, so that is another thing. Usually we do see kind of like a query parameter in the URL slug, which makes these types of pages very hard to index, but they didn't. So this exists for other cities as well. So if we type in Los Angeles and we search, same thing here, very clean URL slug, 10 best assisted living facilities in Los Angeles, California. That's kind of how they set it up. Now, the reason why I think that's important, jumping to the analytics a little bit, I looked at the top pages and that's when I noticed two things. One, this is a massive directory, 79,000 pages, huge directory. But when I looked at the most traffic pages, like this second one, it's 7 best nursing homes in Edinburgh, Texas. It's always like a number and then the best nursing homes, the best senior living facilities. That's an interesting kind of approach. So just looking at all of these pages, a lot of these kind of top traffic pages are going to be those city-specific location pages with the 10 best in the very beginning. Usually I just don't really recommend this because I would rather just have nursing homes in Salisbury, but clearly it's working out for them. And in this niche specifically, it's called A Place for Mom. It's senior living. The people who are visiting these websites do want to know what the best options are for their parents. And so it kind of plays to the kind of mentality of the searcher. And I think that's why it's so smart. Apart from that, I think this directory is just dominating because it's been around for a long time. The types of keywords that it's ranking for are very competitive. Senior living near me, 34,000 monthly searches. They're ranking number 1 for that. Assisted living, nursing homes, these are all somewhat similar or adjacent, and they are dominating this space. It might sound simplistic, but I would say that the road to success here was all of the backlinks that they gained over the years. They probably do have some low quality ones, but they definitely have some very high quality backlinks. If we just take a quick look, they have 20,000 7 best links. These are considered the strongest, most relevant, high authority backlinks that they have. So that's just a result of being around, offering value for over 10 years. They also clearly have a lot of topical authority with just the sheer number of pages covering all of these topics, not just directories, but they have all of these articles that are ranking really well too. Like this article here gets almost 12,000 monthly visitors, and it's how much does in-home care cost. So all of these blogs and guides are super valuable, and this is just working as top of the funnel that leads to their directory, I'm sure. And then as far as monetization, it's just lead generation. Senior living facilities will pay them a commission, maybe pay them to be on the directory, pay them for sponsored posts, referrals, and that's basically how they make their money. Very impressive, and this is one of the reasons why this niche is so hard to compete with, is because you have monstrous competition like this and Care.com. Now, to play devil's advocate and just contradict myself a little bit, there are certain industries that I believe are just so massive. There are going to be thousands and thousands of websites that can win and monetize pretty well. And I would say this is one of them. We saw the $1.2 trillion target that this market's going to be in 2030. And yes, Care.com, aplaceformom.com, there's dozens of other directories around this niche that are crushing it. Yes, they're successful, but I do think we're going to see an emergence of other senior living related directories as well. So that's just my opinion. I think a saturated market just indicates demand, and it allows you to find corners of this niche to play in. Obviously, don't go for the broad keywords like senior living near me, but there's probably some long tail, very specific keyword that you can build a directory around if you want to play in this space. And that's just my opinion. So really solid stuff, beautiful website, and just what a business. I mean, we could talk about this for hours, but I won't. I think I covered the main points that I wanted. I hope you took something away from that, and it just goes to show that whether you're using AI coding tools, which is all the hype right now, or you're just building on WordPress, you can build a big directory business either way, and it's really more of an SEO game. So whatever path you use to optimize your SEO and find success there, and target the right traffic with the right search intent, aligning that with your monetization offer, that's what tends to win. With that, I appreciate you watching. Thanks so much for the support, and I'll catch you guys in another video. See ya.